I'm going to hold so loosely onto this connection and this evening as if like, I don't know what you're doing, God, but I want to enjoy a movie in someone's company. Like, why does it have to be a label if we're boyfriend, girlfriend?
Welcome to Love Stories, a relationship podcast for successful women, where we talk about love, dating, relationships, and how great love stories are made. Whether you're searching for the one, you're madly in love, or simply curious about romantic relationships, this podcast is for you. I'm Charlene Byers. Each week, you'll hear from women, couples, and experts, and all the ins and outs on how to create your own love story. I am so passionate about this subject, and I'm so excited to share all the things that you can apply to create a beautiful love story of your own. Cheers to great love. Welcome back to the Love Stories podcast. I'm your host, Charlene Byers. Happy New Week. Okay. I was recently talking to a client about her recent dating experience. She started dating a man and things started going pretty fast. And the next thing that she knew, she slept with him. At first, she felt good about her decision, but quickly she realized that this guy has no real intentions being in a committed relationship. And she felt that he would probably change his mind, but guess what? He didn't. And she felt used and so disappointed. But here's the deal. He told her that he was not sure if he was looking for a relationship, and she chose to sleep with him anyway. Ladies, I want to make this very clear. If a man says he doesn't know if he wants to be in a relationship, and he's not sure if he even wants to get married, believe him. Believe that's your sign to protect yourself and move on. You cannot change a man. And trust me, you need to make sure that you know exactly what he's looking for. And if he's not sure, you don't take a chance on thinking he will change his mind, because he won't. And there are plenty of amazing men out there who know exactly what they're looking for. And there are plenty of men who won't rush into sex, but will allow you to set the pace as he's getting to know you. And then ultimately, you decide what you want to do, because you don't need to test drive the car before you buy it. In dating, never sleep with a man before you commit. Let's talk about the tip of the week, which is sex does not equal a relationship. One of the biggest mistakes women make is thinking that sex equals a relationship. The endorphins are flowing and you feel like you met the man of your dreams. But the truth is, just because you've been intimate with someone doesn't mean you're in an exclusive or a committed relationship. As an adult woman, you have the right to do whatever you want, but before you decide to have sex, take a step back and ask yourself, is this what I really want to do? Do I really know this man? And is this a man that I want to share my body with? Make sure you're not just acting out of desperation or loneliness or sleeping with the guy because you're thinking that is how you're going to secure the relationship. I want you to know that men can sleep with multiple women and have no emotional attachment. It's just sex for them. And what I notice with women is that once we sleep with the man, we form an emotional attachment. If you do decide to have sex before you're in an exclusive relationship with him, make sure you're being safe and respecting yourself. Make sure you know that sleeping with him doesn't mean that you're in a committed relationship. It just means that you had sex with him. I suggest that you take your time getting to know him and see in time if this is a man who has proven to you that he's crazy about you and he wants to be exclusive. Don't rush the process. You don't need to have sex with a man until he proves that he only wants you and he wants to be in an exclusive relationship. Ultimately, you get to choose. I am so excited to introduce Jennifer Johnson to the show. Jennifer Johnson shares her experiences, transparency as a wife of 28 years, mom to 5 teenagers, and a business owner for over 2 decades. She's on a mission to spread hope and empower women to live a life of intentionality. Her blog, Living Reframed, is dedicated to marriage, life, sex, and intimacy, self-care, and parenting teenagers. Her coaching and online courses empower women who feel stuck by helping them gain confidence and equipping them to transform their marriages. She has over 49,000 followers on both TikTok and Facebook with 10 viral videos. She delivers her message with humor, rawness, and vibrancy as she inspires change. She loves to practice self-care by hiking, fly fishing with her family in the mountains and the rivers of Montana. Dancing is her favorite way to de-stress. She loves God, good chocolate, and will always keep it real. What an amazing conversation I had with Jennifer and her walk with God and how that allowed her to choose the right man. Well, hello, Jennifer. Oh my goodness, you're on. Yay. So excited for this conversation today. Oh my goodness. Oh, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for being on. And thank you for already like what you're going to share with us today. As you know, our show is all about, celebrating women and their journey and their love stories.
Love it.
And I know that you have such an extraordinary journey, an extraordinary love story that I can't wait to hear today. But I want to tell you something before we even get to that love story and, how you met your man and all that kind of good stuff. I want to know a little bit about you, hon.
Right.
I want to know a little bit about you. Like, tell me. So let's talk about that. Where'd you grow up? Let's start from there. Where did you grow up? How was your life, before you got married and all that kind of good stuff? What was life before?
Oh.
Yes. Let's talk about that.
Oh, man.
Yes. Take us back.
How deep we want to go there. I don't know how deep we want to go there, but I was born and raised in Las Vegas. Which is crazy stuff being there as a teenager. I absolutely loved it. I loved the energy of the city. I loved all of it as a teenager.
So you were actually born in Las Vegas. That's fantastic. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then I was raised in a split family. So my mom got divorced when I think I was probably a month old when she got divorced.
Okay. So you didn't even. Okay.
Yeah. And then she remarried when I was probably 7 or 8 or something like that. So, grew up with what I thought was the typical.
Yeah. I was going to say, did you have brothers and sisters?
Totally. And I thought that was just how I thought everyone was divorced.
Okay.
It's just like what you grew up with.
Right.
And so I have a brother that we have the same mom and dad. And then we have like a half sister and we have step siblings and, the whole shebang. So yeah, my parents both were teachers in the school district and, just working. They both had 2 jobs each. And yeah, I was raised pretty, hands off, independent.
Okay. Did you go like back then? What age did you say again? I know you just told me. What age were you when you're born, you're newborn? So it was always what you knew, them not being together pretty much?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was it then did you, go back and forth stay with your mom or stay with your dad? And what about your dad? Did your dad remarry?
I did.
Did your dad remarry?
Yeah. So he remarried and this is for another podcast, but I was actually on visits. I was actually abused by my biological father. But my mom, this is the very cool part is my mom married a man that was, I should say, remarried, when she remarried. So amazing. This man, like, in fact, she tells us she married him because she knew he was going to be such a great father to her kids. And he is. Like, to this day, he is my dad. And whenever I meet a step parent, I just tell them, like, you have no idea the influence that you have in those children. I wouldn't be where I'm at today without my stepdad. I don't even call him my stepdad.
Yeah, he's your dad. See, Jennifer, this is why I'm asking you this question. This really, to me, when I get to talk to women about their journeys and their love stories, I know it has a lot to do with from the beginning. What we experienced and, are the goods, the bads, all the levels. So this is really interesting. So you had this, so your relationship with your actual father, that was obviously not a good relationship.
No bueno.
Is he in your life anymore?
No, he actually has since passed away. He passed away 2 years ago, I believe. But even before that, I'd say about 5, 6 years before he passed away, I cut off all relationships. When you, like I said, another podcast, but when you experience childhood abuse, you go through different phases in your own child rearing where you're kind of trying to re-heal every season. You re-heal when you become sexually active, you re-heal when you get married, you re-heal when you have your own kids. And as your kids go through those different stages that you remember you have to like readdress things and re-heal all the time. And definitely about 5 years before he passed away, my husband and I both said, it's just not healthy. It's not serving us well. And, I will say on this whole topic, the one thing that I think did a disservice to me growing up was the idea of forgiveness equaled restoration. And I think that's the biggest bunch of BS that you could
I agree. Talk about that with me for a second.
Give to. Yeah. I mean, I think it's an overall, especially like if you are in a faith-based, if you're in church or anything like that, I think it's just this overall assumption that you forgive, and it just somehow equals restoration of the relationship. And they're not compatible. They're not, maybe in some circumstances, yes. But I think that's a lot of pressure. And I had that pressure of like, well, we've been to counseling, he's been to counseling. I was in counseling my entire life. We're good to go. So let me see my grandkids and let's like move on as if nothing happened. And that does a lot of damage when you continually have to just pretend that these feelings aren't coming up, or that protection when you're with your kids. And I probably shouldn't cuss on your podcast.
You can say whatever you want. Absolutely. We're good, hon. We're so good.
But you know what I mean? Like,
I think I actually thank you for talking about this actually, because myself included, I've actually never even said anything, but I was abused too as a child. And that has such an effect on you growing up, and the forgiveness and all that. Absolutely. And really what I learned many, many years ago, and it was from my stepfather. And what I learned was that you actually don't have to forgive, and you can actually be okay with not forgiving. And for me, I felt like I had that pressure for so many years, thinking that I had to forgive. And because they would say, well, you forgive for yourself. But no, after someone has done, the things that I experienced as a child, I was like, I ain't forgiving shit. I'm sorry, but I'm done. Like that was to me, I'm like not a good person. And I actually was okay with that. And until I gave myself permission that it's actually okay. You don't have to forgive anybody. I already wasn't holding on to that anymore. I allowed myself to, to, do a lot of work. I had to do a lot of work, a lot of healing, a lot of that kind of stuff. But it was very empowering for me as a woman to say, no, I don't forgive. That was bullshit, to be honest with you. And I was able to kind of like move on. So that's interesting that you're saying that. Where do you think that played in, you going out and really seriously and being experienced, like coming into like liking boys and dating, like where did that start? Where did that come into play?
Wow. So it definitely comes into play because you can see the different, it's almost like someone that has survived sexual abuse, there's different paths that we have the potential to go down. And you and I have both seen those paths. And I've met those women and I've seen, wow, that could be me. That could have been me. Wow, that could have been me. Wow, that could have been me. Like to this day, I meet people and I thought, wow, that could have been me. And, the way we process that trauma and the way it plays out. So I would say the biggest, to kind of, so that we stay to our time, I'd say the biggest, influence it had on me was dating when I started. I loved being liked. I loved being seen. I loved feeling pretty. I loved that. And what's really interesting about all of this,
what, Jennifer, tell me,
is that, oh my gosh, so many times like that, what I just explained to you, I would chalk it up to it's because of what happened to you. When really, and I'll dive into that a little bit deeper, but really in reality, that's just my personality. He doesn't get that much power. Like that's just my personality. That's not because I was abused. That's just because that's my personality. And for so long, I used to just give him so much power of like, oh, you like to be seen because you were abused. Like,
right.
What?
You're like, no, this is who I am. This is who I am. I love that you said that you also decided, I'm not going to give that person power because they already took away that time.
They already stole so much.
I love that. And I also wanted to make sure that I positioned myself, that I wanted to cut that cord. Like I was like, that is not going to define me as a woman. And that is something that, you know, that I was an innocent child that happened to me, but that's not who I am.
Right.
That's not, but I, you know, again, that came during time. Do you know what I mean? That took me some time. That took me time and healing, because the statistics, like, gosh, I wish I had it right now, Jennifer, but the statistics of, you know, of abuse. I mean, I think it's 4 out of 5, if I'm not mistaken.
1 out of 3 is what I've always known.
So I know the numbers have raised. The numbers have raised. It's a lot because there's majority, like a lot of the women. Yes, a lot of the women that I talk to have experienced some type of abuse as a child. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So let's fast forward then. So you go through this, you know, you're back and forth, you're growing up in Vegas, you go through this, you know, obviously horrible experience.
Yeah.
So take me a little further. Right. So now what age are we when we kind of like get out of the house, we kind of grow up and move on? What happened there, Mama? Tell me.
This is the crazy part. This is when my husband is introduced to the story. So I'm dating and I'm kind of doing what I thought was cool. Everybody else is doing it.
What age are you at this time? Give me an age. Give me an age you think.
You're 14.
Okay, you're 14 years old. Okay. So you're like dating, 14. You're having fun, everything's great. You're like, okay.
Having fun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I made that decision of like, I'm going to be part of the cool crowd. They seem to be talking about all that stuff, losing their virginity. I'm going to jump in with my boyfriend and I'm going to be cool.
We're going to be cool. We got this.
And it was terrible. Yeah, it was terrible. It was the worst experience because I didn't realize that all of that history is connected to all of that. And so that's when a lot of the, you know, flashbacks and like just responses that were shocking. And you're like, oh, okay, this is not cool. I don't like this feeling. What do I do with this like matzo ball that's staring at me? And so I kind of cut that off. I was like, okay, that was dumb. And I really began searching. And that's when I just really felt like I was on this, like, who am I? Where is my identity? And I had a bit of a self-sabotage season where I did so many things. I would get drunk. I would get high. I would ditch school. My parents even at 15 locked me in like a teenage facility.
Right. You were rebelling. You were, you know, already.
I was totally rebelling.
Of course you were. Yes, absolutely. You were. Did you tell anybody at the time what happened with you?
Oh, it was a known fact because we were all in therapy together from like, it was my first memory up until like 6 or something. So it came out and I was in therapy for like 5-6 years.
Okay. So now you're in therapy and so it wasn't anything that was hidden, but it was obviously something that you, like you said, you were like, what is going on here? Like they're telling me one thing, but I'm feeling something different. Yeah. And it's kind of like, forget everyone here. Was that kind of like it was? It's like, okay, gotcha.
The world's out to get me. I'm tainted. I'm tainted, I'm icky, I'm used up, I'm ugly. And as a teenager, so much, I look back and so much of my behavior was proving, I wanted to basically say, see, I told you I was ugly. See, I told you wouldn't want me. It was like I was doing this behavior to reinforce what I thought the message was.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
that makes sense. Yes.
And there was one night, oh my gosh, there was one night I'll never forget. I came home. I was so beyond tipsy and, you know, probably 16, 17 years old, doing my thing, having fun. Cause I still like to have fun. Right. And I look in the mirror and I'm just like, ew, ugh, look at you, look at you. I told you, you're so used up. You can't seem to, da, da, da. And I swear to you, God was like, nope, there is nothing you can do to take my love away from you. There's nothing you can do to take your value away. There is nothing in this world that is going to remove my stamp on you that you are perfect and I created you beautifully. It wasn't audible. But it was
a moment. You were like, what is going on? Like, I'm feeling this. It was an act of God, right? Like for you to be feeling so totally down and kind of just feeling like, what the hell am I doing? Yep. I'm lost. To have some clarity come into you. Wow. That's beautiful. Actually. That's really cool.
It was amazing. So, and he said, I am your father. Like, that sounds Star Wars-ish, but it wasn't quite like that.
They're like, I am your father. You're like, oh, okay, I'm your father. You're like, oh shit. Now I'm hallucinating. What the hell? Yeah. No, but it was. It was a moment. It really was a moment for you.
Yeah, it was a total moment.
Yeah, it was a defining moment for you.
Defining moment.
Where was your faith at the time?
I had a strong faith in junior high, and I specifically remember saying in my freshman year when all the rebellion started happening, I was like, screw this. I'm going to go have fun and I'll pick this up later on in life.
Right. That makes sense. It actually does.
That's what I did.
For ladies, I know for you guys that are hearing right now, I mean, this is so relatable. I mean, really, honestly, this is so relatable. Yeah. This is kind of like what we do. And especially if we have experiences like we did, when we were a child, it's kind of like, forget this. Like, we got to figure this out. We got to heal. We got to do all the things. Okay. So then what happened then? What happened?
So then I was like, that's it. No more dating. No more guys. Like, that does not serve me well. And for so many reasons, like God is my boyfriend kind of thing. And I started journaling and I started listening to messages and I started like just really feeling in control. And for the first time, I felt safe. And I was like, ooh, safety is a good feeling. That's a good feeling. And
let me ask you this. What do you think it was? Do you think it was for you when you said I felt safe? Do you think it was that you finally just were able to have some clarity and really go inwards? Because I want people to hear this.
Yeah, it wasn't that constant drive to try to prove myself, whether prove that I was as damaged as I had always believed. Because I think at a certain season, I was trying to prove that. Or when you flip to the other side, you're trying to prove I'm not damaged. And so you're just that fighter personality. It's exhausting fighting everything. And I think when you finally, for me, and here's the thing, and I put this in my coaching all the time, is there's a question that we're always asking ourselves. And your question is different than my question. It's our primal question. And so I'm constantly asking that question in every interaction that I have. And my goal is to have that question. My question is, am I safe? And my goal is to have that to have everybody I interact with to have a yes on that. And if it's not, then that's when you see kind of the unhealthy things come out. But does that help?
That helps. I love that. That makes sense to me.
I'm safe to be who I am.
You're safe to be who you are because you felt unsafe for so long. And you had to say, okay, there's something here that I got to get my power back. And like we talked about, like we said even earlier, and not give the power to what happened to us as children. We were victimized as children, but that doesn't mean that we have to stay victims for the rest of our lives.
Absolutely.
I get it.
Absolutely.
I get it. Okay. So you have this moment. No, seriously, this is big. Yeah. So you have this moment. You're like,
I didn't know we were going here.
Yeah, no, you had this moment. This is the best part about this conversation. It just goes naturally where it goes.
Beautiful.
So you had this moment and you had this realization. You're like, okay, so now I'm going to slow things down. I'm, going to God's going to be my guidance. Talk to me about that. What happened after that? Where did you go from there? So you're still thinking, okay, so I'm not going to be dating guys, or did you still want to? Yeah. What happened, Mama?
I was slowly getting away from that. You know, some of the habits were still in place, like going out all the time and da da da. But no, I was still having fun, but I was like no dating whatsoever. And I started going to church, and you go consistently, and you start to notice people, and some of the same people, and they sit in some of the same areas. And I noticed this guy, and I was like, And there were Sundays, I kid you not, Charlene, there were Sundays where I was still a little hungover because I'm still working.
You're like, I'm still trying to figure this out.
And so
you're young, Mama. How old were you? You said now at this time you're still young. Now you're 16, probably, or still? Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, yeah. 16, getting closer to 17.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, I'm trying to do this. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh man, I don't want to go to church, but there's this guy. I want to see him so bad. And I would go. I would just be like, let's do it. Let's go.
Yeah,
and,
very motivating. Yes, you're like, oof.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy about this whole story is that if we would have met those first 2-3 times that, even the first 2 months that we saw each other, it would have been terrible.
Why?
Because I still had a lot. I just wasn't ready. We probably would have hooked up. We probably would have tore each other's clothes off and like burned. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't when we were supposed to meet. I still had a lot of growth, and we can both look back. This is what's crazy. So we checked each other out for 6 months without ever talking. He would look back at me and be like, I see you. And I'd be like,
so he's okay, hold on. So he's looking at you, you looking at him, but no one's telling each other, I like you. But
no.
Did you know he was looking at you?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So he was looking at you, you're looking at him, but you both are like, okay. Oh, this is good. Okay. So what happened? So 6 months.
Yeah.
So 6 months, you're like, is this man going to talk to me?
6 months.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
That is some dedication, Mama. Like you were like, wow, I'm going to keep going here.
Yeah.
Yes. Fantastic. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Then
and
what?
I didn't want to screw anything up.
Yeah.
I was at that point where I'm like, I just don't want to screw anything up. Like I'm good. And sometimes.
So you liked him from afar. Wait, which one?
Yes.
Yeah. You liked him from afar.
Where they're at I think it's like they're at the pool and they see this really hot guy in a bikini or like not a bikini, a Speedo. And then they go to talk to him, and he has like a really high pitched voice.
That was a movie. Oh my God! Oh my God! Yes, I totally know. I know what you're talking about. Yes, you look at someone and you're like, oh like, wow, and they physically look fantastic. You're like, oh, thank you, Jesus. And then you talk, you're like, oh, no. You're like, no.
And I think part of me was just like, this is fun. I don't want to go talk to him and then have him talk to me and like completely ruin it, or I don't know. So
you like the little distance, you like the little flirty, the little looking. I got you because you were still trying to get your little confidence. I got you.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, it was fun. And I kind of made up stories about like, oh, who is he sitting with? That must be his brother. That must be his mom. I'd like make up different things. I was looking for a girl, and like, is he touching her?
Yeah. Oh, he ain't touching. Oh, what's going on? Yeah.
Yeah. So fast forward, we had a mutual friend that kind of found out that we both knew of each other but had never met, and so she kind of was like, "Hey, Jen, I want you to meet this guy," and he turned around. And I was like, "Oh, hi," and then she left. So kind of left us just standing there, and he's super cute and quiet, and he's like, "So, do you go to UNLV, which is the college in Vegas?" And I'm like, no, I don't. And, he's like, oh, you must go to the community college. And I'm like, no community college. And he sat there and he was with his brother, and his brother looks at him and they kind of look at each other. And his brother's like, no, she's in high school, right? You're in high school, right? And I'm like, yeah. And his face was like, oh, okay.
He said,
you can see.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was 17 at the time, and he was 23.
Okay. Got it.
So we're talking and, we have some commonalities and different things. And at the time I'm living in just a town like 25 minutes outside of Vegas. And I said, finally, we're about to leave. And I remember thinking, this is my chance. I'm going to shoot my shot.
Yeah.
Right?
You're like, I like this guy. Yeah.
It's been going on 6 months. Is he really going to leave this interaction without any kind of
something,
So I just basically said, are you going to ask for my number? You need to call me if you're ever up in my area. You gotta take control.
You gotta take, hey, hello, hi. What did he say? What did he say, Jennifer? Let us know. What did he say?
He was like, yes, absolutely. And so he took my number, and after that, my heart was just Twitter-pated, and we went out on our first date. And I just remember thinking, because I'm just began my senior year in high school.
Okay, yeah, you're 17, senior year. Yep.
I've grown so much. Yeah. And I just remember thinking, he's a man.
Wow.
He's like a man.
He's like, man, he's not like these boys in high school. Oh, Lordy, this one has some masculine energy. Woo. Yes. Yeah, I can imagine. Basically. Yeah. And I've always been attracted to older men. There's something about, a little bit of an older man. It's sexy. Yeah. And it's so funny now. Yeah, I don't know, but sometimes, the women are like, with Charlene, when you get older, you start getting more attracted to the younger ones. I'm like, okay, it's all good. Okay.
So, so we went out on our first date, and it literally, this is the crazy part, the movie, what is the movie? How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Yeah. So I basically did everything you're not supposed to do.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh my gosh. What was going, were you doing this on purpose, or were you doing this because you were just doing your thing?
So this is me. We go to eat before the movie, and we're talking about stuff. And for some reason we start talking about sex, and I'm like, I have no plans to be active with anybody moving forward. I tried to say it in a way of like,
yeah. I'm not doing that.
Moving forward until I get married. On the first date, I tell him this.
And he's like, okay.
Yeah. And to this day, we laugh about it because he said at the time, his first thought was just chuckling, like, yeah, wait till she gets to know me. Anyway, next topic, she's so young. And then we kissed in the middle of the movie, and I'm telling you, Charlene, everything was perfect. Like, it felt right. He was a great kisser. Our
everything stopped.
Were just
it was like, oh, just stopped. Time just stopped. So your body just knew.
This is my husband.
Yeah, you're like, okay, this is it. Like I obviously, you've had some experiences before, but this was completely different. You're like, there's something different. So there was it a feeling, Mama? Was it a feeling?
It was spiritual. It was physical. It was emotional. It was like, it's almost like the movies where you're like, this is my husband. I don't know if you saw the TikTok trend where people walk by each other and then they see their whole life flash before them. They get married, they have babies, and it's kind of a cool concept. But that's kind of how it was when we kissed. I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is it. So when he dropped me off at my front door, I said, this just feels so right. This feels so good. This just feels right.
Okay. No, totally. On the first date. She's like, wow, we're getting married and stuff already. So on the first date. Okay, let me ask you this. Obviously, now you're with him and life went, but now when you talk to him, what does he say about that kiss too? Did he have that same kind of experience like with you? Or was he more like, he likes you and likes, you're getting a little ahead of yourself? What was his experience? I'm very curious about that. Has he told you?
He says that, well, he doesn't think as actively as I do.
Yeah, he's a guy.
So, I'm, women, we're on top of our feelings. We're like, I feel this, it feels right. Whereas I think for him, he probably wouldn't say he knew how to pinpoint what he was feeling, but nothing I said made him like go, oh, back up, sister. Like he loved the kiss. He couldn't stop thinking about me. He was just like, yeah, this is it. And we never saw anybody else again after that. But what's really cool about this, and I think this is important, especially for the single ladies.
Single ladies, listen up.
I remember even though I think, man, I talk to myself like, girl, you were so wise at 17. It blows me away. So God must have been really growing me, because I remember thinking, I am not going to put on a lot of makeup for this date. I wore jeans. I wouldn't say I didn't put effort into it, but I wanted to be me. And I wanted it to go uphill. I wanted it to not go downhill. I wanted it to go uphill. And I remember thinking that, like, I'm just going to be chill. Like, I'm going to hold so loosely, which is so ironic, but I'm going to hold so loosely onto this connection and this evening, as if like, I don't know what you're doing, God, but I want to enjoy a movie in someone's company. Like, why does it have to be a label if we're boyfriend, girlfriend?
Oh, I love that.
It was amazing. And I kept that philosophy for probably 6 months. I never, ever asked him when I was going to see him again.
Oh, good for you.
He would kiss me at my front door and I would just be like, okay, bye.
Okay.
I would never ask.
I love this. I love
Crazy,
this.
right?
No, but this is so important that you're saying that, because there is something about, and especially in, romantic relationship polarity, and I talk about this all the time. No, there is. The more that we as women just lean back and trust ourselves and just allow ourselves to be, the more the men come in. Like they gravitate. The more that we try to control it, make it work, or try to, plan things and have everything the way we want it to have, the more it falls apart. So there was something in your energy, it could have been like just like being so young and being able to tap into this, knowing that however, I talk about this all the time, however we start out in relationships, we form a pattern. And if we start out in a relationship already, trying to control things, plan things, be all the doer, then that's what's going to continue on going on in the relationship. If we start out the relationship like you did, just allowing yourself to be, having no expectations, allowing yourself to flow, things start gradually happening differently. So talk about what started happening, because you had you were just like, I'm just going to let it be. We're just going to see what's up. I want him to come to me. I'm going to be me. Yes. Have you ever been able to do that before? Jennifer, did you ever been able to do that before in relation? Okay. Before, what were you like?
No.
It was
very
more
insecure.
Okay.
Very insecure. Are we boyfriend, girlfriend? Are you going to call me? Why haven't you called me
very
yet?
Needy. Very
Where
needy.
is he? What is he doing? Yeah.
Right.
Needy.
But this was different. This was different.
But I had God. Like, God was my boyfriend. I didn't need. I didn't need this dude. He's cute.
Yeah.
And yeah. So it just, I held on to it with an open hand, and I continued to journal. In fact, it's so adorable. We have the journals, and literally in my high school English journal, I'm like, I bet I met a boy. He's pretty cute.
Oh my gosh,
it's adorable.
That's adorable.
And you can see you can see the thought process of like, oh, he's going a little too fast for me. And then like a week later, it's like, I'm so in love with him. We're going to get married. I flipped between the loved and the beloved.
Yes. Wow. Okay. So let's fast forward. So now you're 17 years old. You're falling in love with this guy. Yeah. What happens? What happened after this?
So we realized we just wanted to be together a lot, and we realized we had a chemistry there. I did stick to I didn't want to ruin it by having sex with him. And I wanted to honor that commitment I made to myself and to God. And just like, I just didn't want to ruin anything. And I loved the fact that he was still around. And I loved the fact that we found creative ways to be intimate, and we found creative ways to we read books together. Like we just did things to try
other connections to, besides, do the thing. Yeah.
It was really cool. I mean, granted, we knew what we were working with, like there was definitely, but it was just something that it was a challenge to both of us. And I felt like it kept It can, not always. It can keep some good, the good ones around sometimes. It can weed some of the guys out pretty fast. But,
no, it really does. And I talk, no, that's cool that you said that, because honestly, I always tell women, listen, as grown ass women, you can do whatever you want to do. It's, there's no right or wrong. But when we are talking about, like, really, when we're talking about, meeting someone that we want to spend the rest of our lives with, there's no need to rush this process, because when you allow yourself to slow things down and allow the man to court you and get to know you, not just based on because we slept with them so quickly, because so much changes when you sleep with somebody so quickly. And you know that. Everything changes. And matter of fact, especially for women. So I'm not going to get into that today, but especially for women, what happens with our with our ability, like we literally lose our mind. We have this bond with the man, even though we're not even really bonded with him. We bond with him when you have sex with a man. Right. And so there's so many layers that happen. So I'm always like, ladies, enjoy the process, allow him to pursue you and get to know you. And we can do the touchy later.
And that's value yourself. I think valuing yourself it's rare. Now we're just giving it away for free,
right? Giving it away for free, and there's energy.
I don't mean
and there's
for free,
no, but no, I know,
but
no, but there's an exchange of energy. Like there's so much more that happens when we are, sexually connected with another person and we have sexual connection. Like there's this exchange of energy. So I'm like, why would we want to exchange our energy with a person that we don't truly know who they are and we really value them, and its time has gone by to see who that person is? Because a lot of times, don't you hear this all the time? Right. You hear a lot of us women, they're like, oh my God, I ended up with this jerk or a narcissist or an asshole. Right? Seriously. Yeah. And usually that has to do with when we go backwards and we check it back, it usually has to do with you got into bed too early with them and you really didn't find out who he was. You didn't allow yourself to slow things down and to, trust yourself. Who is this guy? What is going on? Right. I'm not going to just let anybody come over here. Like, I'm the prize here. Yeah. So that's amazing that you were so young and you already had this in you, knowing you're like, I'm going to slow this down. Okay. So what happens?
Right. Well, and let's face it, part of me quietly behind in the background was fearful of what my physiological responses were going to be because of the abuse. So that kind of was a little bit of a easier, way to keep that at bay.
You're like, okay, have that in the back.
Yeah. So we got engaged that summer.
Oh my gosh. That's fantastic. So you were engaged at 17?
I had just turned, let's see, we met in November, got engaged in July of 93. So I think I was 18 or just turned 18, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you get engaged, you're 18 years old, we get married. Yeah. And so what happened? So what was life like? Because you went from, I'm 17 or 18 years old, I'm falling in love, I had this crazy childhood, and now I get to marry the man that I'm crazy in love with.
Yeah. And such a gentle man. I think that's the other thing, is one thing that kept like reverberating throughout our connection is this man is so tender. And this man is so gentle, which I am I safe is my question, right? That's always the question I'm asking. And so the answer was always yes, because he was so tender and gentle. And I remember thinking, I want to have kids one day. Is this guy going to be a good father? These are all things you have to think about before you get married. Like these are incredibly important. And I remember meeting guys that were really well dressed and like kind of the life of the party. And I just remember thinking, there's nothing there. I don't see father material. I don't see gentle and tenderness. And I think every woman is different. But for me, those were qualities that were so important to me.
Yes. It was how you know what I love when you say safe, because we talk about it was for you really wanted to, it was about how you wanted to feel. And that's so important because a lot of times we don't even stop to think about that. Like, how actually do you want to feel? in a relationship? And not only
Right.
just be in a relationship, how do you want to feel with a man? And when I ask women that question,
Right.
one of the number one questions that come up is safe. And what happens is a lot of times they don't even think about that prior. They're not even thinking about, I want to feel safe. I
Right.
want to feel loved. I want to feel pursued. I want to feel cherished, you know? And so for you to be able to slow that down and really have that wisdom really early on was, like I told you earlier, that's pretty remarkable though, Jennifer. That's really important. And I think that probably has to do with because, like you said, your childhood, there was something about with you that was very, very important. Like I ain't gonna be with no man that I don't feel completely safe with. So that's what he presented to you.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So here we have. Yeah. And that's what's so funny about this. And I think this is like so important for people is I have this kind of quiet, mysterious. I was so attracted to his quietness because it was strong and silent. And I was going to be one of the few that really got to know him. And he was tender and gentle. Then we get married and I'm like, buddy, why don't you talk?
That's me. You're so nice, but you don't talk.
What the heck? You're so gentle.
You're a little too gentle. What the hell? So that didn't even come out until you got married, right? Now you're like, okay, now what's happening? Yeah. Oh my goodness.
What's going on here? Why don't you talk more? And then I would poke, because at this point, I just wanted a reaction of some sort. At that point, I didn't care what kind of reaction I got. I just wanted a reaction.
You're like, dude, something. Give me something. Give me something.
Yeah. So we moved away from Vegas. We moved here to Montana, 1,000 miles away from all of our family. And we had to just figure it all out. We would get in fights. I couldn't run home to mom. Like we had to figure it out. And it was.
So it was pretty hectic in the beginning. How many years you would think that was really tough? What was your transition? 10?
I feel like we were on the honeymoon for about 8 months, give or take 8 months. We were on a honeymoon. And then I discovered, and I'm an open book. Like if you go to my Instagram pages or my Facebook, where I'm TikTok, we're very transparent about our story. I discovered as a bride of, 20 that my husband was looking at porn. And I'm like,
oh,
but
what year was this? But what year was this? Was this the year that everyone was looking at porn? Because I just had that conversation, when the internet came out. Yes, I just had this conversation when the internet came out. And it was like what year was in the night when all the men for the first time, believe this or not, they were able to see, right there on the computer porn, because before they had to go get a tape, they had to go get a magazine.
It was icky before. They had to go to
and now it's like right in their private home in their house. Yeah. I get this. Yeah, that was definitely an issue. And that was devastating for so many of us women because we're like, hell no, what is up?
Devastating.
Absolutely. Yeah. I totally understand what you went through. I went through the same.
Yeah. And you're asking yourself, well, wait a minute. Like, what about this?
It feels like, is it me? It feels so disrespectful. Am I not good enough?
Yeah.
Yes. So what happened? What did you do with this information?
So those were the first thoughts is, what do I need to do? Do I need to get a boob job? Do I need to dye my hair? Do I need to try different positions? Am I not as excited? And that's a whole nother conversation you and I can have. The bottom line is I learned, it took me a long time to learn this, but I learned that had nothing to do with me, It all had to do with him. And it was, it was his question, ironically, with the primal questions that I incorporate is, am I good enough? And so if his question is constantly coming up, no, which his kryptonite is criticism.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So if for some reason I start criticizing and nagging, which seems to come pretty easy for some of us, then it's, I'm not good enough. And when I don't feel good enough and I feel shameful, I'm going to go do those things that help me check out. It's not an excuse. It's just, you learn that it's not us. It has nothing to do with us. It has nothing to do with how we look, what we do in bed. It has everything to do with them, and it truly is their issue they need to work through.
And I want to say this.
Of course, we had to work through it as a couple.
And I want to say this too. So ladies, so for you are hearing us right now, because I've been through the same situation. It has nothing to do with us. It really does have to do with whatever's going on with them. But in the same breath, it totally affects us. And it makes us feel 100%. As women, it's not acceptable. It's a disrespect, believe it, towards us as women. And so if you are in a situation like that, we are not saying that this is okay. We are not saying that you shouldn't, right. We're not saying that you shouldn't feel the way you feel. Feel the way you feel, because it is not something that any woman wants to deal with. And especially if you're a married woman and your husband has that issue, that's something that needs to be addressed, and that's something that needs to be taken care of. And that is not okay. It's actually not okay.
Yeah. It's devastating.
It is.
It's absolutely devastating and unfair and not acceptable under any circumstances. It's not acceptable. And the irony of all of it is it destroys your sex life, which is just like crazy, because you're like, look,
it does. One of the things
we think so simply.
No, it does. It destroys your sex life in all aspects. And one of the, I deal with a lot of young men that are in their 20s. There's this checklist that I tell them of things that can literally destroy you. And one of them is not that masturbation and pleasuring yourself like that. Hey, that's all good. We're all humans. Yeah. We're talking something totally different. Right. We're talking an addiction. Yeah. We're talking an addiction. And if and that addiction will affect every area of your life, and especially if you're in a relationship. So how did you guys get through this? Oh my goodness.
It was a lot. And, it was really hard, which is really what drove me into coaching for wives, is we would seek counsel, and we'd seek counsel in the church. We would seek counsel, to couples that looked on the outside like, wow, they're ahead of us by 10, 20 years. Let's see what they say. And porn is such a, issue with so many people. We found that not too many couples address it. Even the ones that you have so much respect for, it's like, we would talk to couples where, oh my gosh, you realize that husband has an issue and his wife has no clue. So then became my drive to be like, especially with my background of like, can we cut the crap? Can we cut the BS and just be vulnerable and authentic and share the true real life issues that we're dealing with? Because we're suffocating over here and nobody is being real. We have couples telling us, oh, they never fight. Well, good freaking for you. You probably never communicate either.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. People. Yeah. Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah. So you were like, why can't we have some authenticity here? Why are we all bullshitting each other? Let's keep it real. I got you.
Exactly.
Okay. Got it.
That's how it felt, was like, why are y'all BSing each other? And why can we not get anywhere? So he sought counseling and really worked with a therapist. And so kind of the blanket of all of this is we discovered, again, no excuse or anything, but it just things start to explain, is he struggled with depression. He was a star baseball player his entire life, was getting drafted out of high school, went to college for baseball and tore his pitching arm. And that caused, when you raise a child on a one-legged stool, you are this is your entire identity, is you are a pitcher. And then, that leg is gone. You tear your elbow, ligament in your elbow, you have Tommy John surgery. Your whole identity is blown up. And it leaves you really scrambling for who you are, what your purpose is.
I can only imagine, Jeff. Yes. So
then, he's unpacking all of that. I'm unpacking some of the porn and how it's affecting my childhood abuse.
Right. You're like, oh my goodness, it's a mess.
It was just crazy.
Do you know how many people are seriously, here we go again. Do you know how many people can relate to this? This is real life. This is real stuff. You know, a lot of times this is stuff that we don't address. This is stuff that we kind of try to hide and put away. And this is stuff like when we have certain things in our marriages, we think, oh my God, it's just us. And then we get divorces and we're like, oh, this is not going to work. The grass is going to be better on the other side. But no. Sometimes, no. The majority of the time, no. So,
majority
of the time, no. There's our cases that absolutely you got to go 100%. But the majority of the time, you know that. Yeah. But the majority of the time, no.
Yep.
So you're going through this, Jennifer. So you're in love with this man and you're thinking, this is the love of my life. Everything's good. But now things are just going. What were you feeling at the time? Were you thinking, okay, I'm going to stick it through with him or I'm leaving? What was your mindset at the time?
The latter for sure. And then, definitely moments of, I swear, God, you were telling me to marry this man, but clearly it was like you shot an arrow and I was supposed to duck and I
maybe I got the wrong one.
I got the wrong one here. Like clearly this message was not for me.
Yeah. Like, you're like, okay, we got an issue here. This big issue. Yeah. You're like, okay.
Yeah. And the crazy part was like, why? And I remember asking God this, why would you put a sexual abuse survivor with someone who has a porn addiction?
A porn addiction. You're like, are you seriously? Well, he knows what he's doing.
What? That makes no sense.
I know. At this time. I know. He, at the time he was like, girl, here we go.
Yeah. So we worked through it, got through those seasons and in between a beautiful, beautiful life, like amazing sex life. Our sex life, we kept praying about it and trying new things and it kept getting better and better. And like, I could feel healed. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm not worried about what I look like in this position or, you know, like I actually, I'm not worried if he's thinking about somebody else during this.
Okay. But he was getting help, right?
I had to journal and he was getting help.
Okay. That's why. So ladies, that's why she was able to do this. Yeah. So there wasn't like he was just ignoring the issue. So we got to make sure we say that about him. So the reason why you were able to also, you know, like retrust, relearn, still be in there is because he was willing to get help.
Yes. Yep. And he worked very hard. And so this is like our first 7 years. We start having kids and some other things start popping up where I'm like, you know, like maybe some, trying to remember the different things, different sneaking things, like sneaking things from me. And all of a sudden, if you could picture like our marriage is built on pillars and these pillars started cracking a little bit. And I'm like, we've already repaired this pillar and now this pillar's starting to crack a little bit.
What's going on over here? Hello? Yeah.
Yeah. What's happening? And then, like, why do you feel the need to hide things? And then, so that safety net is like gone.
Dun,
and
when
obliterated. And when I don't feel safe, I put a wall up. And then now I shouldn't say the poor guy because he deserved it some days. Yeah. He couldn't even like empty the dishwasher correctly or load it correctly. He couldn't even breathe correctly because when that wall goes up to protect myself, I'm really good at using words to cut and slice. And so now I'm serving him his kryptonite. He can do nothing wrong.
Right.
I mean, nothing right.
Right. Nothing right. Now you're in such a different mind frame because you're like, okay, I thought we already dealt with this. Now we're dealing with this. Now I'm like, oh, no. And I have my own stuff that, you know, I thought I dealt with, but now stuff is coming up. Yeah. This is in marriages. This is when, like I said, this is when we're like, okay, it's over. It's done.
It's over. Yeah. And we're raising kids. And I think one of the pivotal things is I was in sales and I started matching his income. And I remember thinking, I don't need to stay. But I'm choosing to stay. He's still my best friend. every time I would focus on his issues, God would like put this mirror up in front of me and say, oh, but child, let's not forget these things. And I'm like, why can't I be the self-righteous one?
Right. You're like, you know?
And so I slowly started like, okay, God, show me where I can be better and show me how I can speak to him differently. And because at the end of the day, he's my best friend. And
at the end of the day, it takes two people to have a relationship.
Yeah.
Regardless, it takes two people to show up. It takes two people to have a relationship. So if you're in a relationship, and even if the man, like your situation, you know, went to the right, and things were like, oh, it's not going good. Where you going? Where you going? We still have a responsibility to be in this relationship, to either, you know, figure things out, leave, whatever that is. But it takes two people to have a relationship. So it does come down to how are you showing up too. I understand that.
How am I showing up? And this is when it gets good.
Yes.
So some more things transpired, some more little like cracks in the pillars where I'm like, come on, buddy, you can do better than this. And that's when I started getting to the point where I'm like, I no longer took things personal. I took it more of like, I want so much better for you. Like, I know you have the capability of doing so much better. I don't want to change you, but I also know you're just capable of so much more than this. Like, why are you believing lies?
Right. No, but there must have been something about, like you said, from the beginning. So this is what I want people to hear. From the beginning, when you met him, and as life went by, and you go and you have all these things that are happening, right?
Right.
But there had to have been something about him still inside you that you knew that he was a good human, like he was a good man. Like he, you know what I mean? That there is like, even though, trust me, I can only imagine at the time, I would be going like, are you kidding me? You know what I mean? Like, we're not putting light to any of this, you ladies. No. Because if she was in a position with a guy that was not a good person and he was, you know, going to the right, because there's a difference, then you would have known, because you were already able to trust yourself and trust your gut. So there was something about this in you that you knew, okay, this is a good human being, but damn, he's got some shit right now that we got to get through. You know what I mean? Like,
he's getting on my nerves.
Every nerve. I don't know, but I want people to understand there was something there. And I want you to explain this real quick. There had to have been something there that your gut told you this is still good man. Because if your gut was saying, because those are the signs. If it was saying, no, I'm this, you got to listen to that too. So what was happening there? What was happening?
Yeah, I'm so glad you're asking this, because my message, I always have to put a disclaimer on my message with my business. Whenever I share our story and whenever I share what God is doing through us, I always tell people, this does not apply to an abusive relationship. This does not apply to narcissistic behavior. This does not apply to someone who has a sex addiction and has some serious issues, that like everything that I'm saying, because what I'm about to say is going to be controversial. And so I really want people to know everything that I'm saying does not apply if you are in an abusive relationship.
Thank you. Exactly. And if you're in an abusive relationship, get out now. When someone is physically abusing you or the things that they said, they don't change. That is the reality. Okay. Thank you for saying that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
that wasn't your situation. You know, this is different.
Wasn't my situation.
That wasn't your situation.
I might have started abusing him. No, I'm just kidding. I shouldn't have
well, no. That's funny. But listen, you got to pull the hair because it doesn't leave marks. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that either.
So
that's terrible.
So you're right, though. There's something to his. That's one thing God kept telling me is like, he is a good man and you're just as broken. And I kept hearing that is, girl, you are just as broken. And it is just so much easier to look at someone else's brokenness.
Oh, that's good. You're saying that.
That's why Yeah, that's why my business is called Living Reframed, because when you can reframe your perspective right now, it's so easy to zoom in on the frame on their faults, what
Tell
they're doing
everyone
wrong,
real quick, Jennifer.
how they're not.
I'm sorry. I don't want to forget. Can you just tell real quick tell everyone, because we keep talking about what you do. Tell them what you actually do so they know that they can, what type of coaching you're doing.
Yeah. So Living Reframed is basically, it's a blog. And then I also do coaching for wives specifically to help repair trust and intimacy. That's it.
Fantastic. That's beautiful. Yeah. Okay. So then let's go back to your story. Okay. So now you're in this. Okay. And you say it's going to be controversial. Yeah. So it's going to be good. Here we go.
Yeah. So basically, it's all about reframing. And when we zoom in on the faults of our spouse and we're constantly looking at everything that they're coming up short in this contract. And you hear so many people say 50-50, 50-50. That is BS. It's not 50-50. You have to be ready to bring 150.
Yeah. 200. I always say 200. 200. And especially children. Children require 200% of your time. Literally. And what happens is when they're acting out, when they're doing this, they always think about that. Like, oh my God, that's because it's impossible. It's impossible sometimes. So yes. So it's not fit. There's no 50-50. We got to, sometimes we give more. Sometimes they got to give more. Some people have, some days you might only have 20, mama. Seriously. So he needs to take the rest. And some days he might, you know what I mean? He might have 90 or whatever it is. Yes, I know that. It comes as a couple. Okay. So tell me this is so good.
And I know we're like getting out of time.
I know, it's okay.
So basically,
here we go again with the time. Oh Lordy, ladies, listen, I hope you're enjoying these conversations as much as I am. I'm telling you, I can't give these conversations short to save my life. But why? Why? Because think about what we're hearing today. This is real life. This is so relatable to so many of us. They need to hear the story. I want women to hear the story. Right. So, okay. So I know we won't take forever, but I want to hear this.
Yeah. I'll wrap it up. So at a certain point I was done and I said, that's it. I'm done. I am tired of paying for consequences of things I didn't do. And I was, why me? Why do I have to be the strong one? Why do I always have to be the one that comes? Why, whatever. And I remember just whining. And I was driving and here comes God again. And I pull over and he said, you know why? It's because any other weaker person would not be able to be a conduit for my strength. It's not your strength. It's, I can be strength through you. And I want you to be the wife that I've called you to be, regardless of what you're seeing today, regardless of what you're getting in return.
Wow. Well, that was enough. You're like, oh, here we go, that voice again. Oh.
That was tough for me to hear. And I'm like, no. That means I potentially have to never have my needs met or never, like, I don't want to do this this was at year 22 years in our marriage. I don't want to do the next 22 years the same way. That's not what I signed up for. Like, please don't make me do this, Lord. Like, please don't. And he was like, you have to trust me. I want you to speak to the man that you know is inside him and not what you're seeing today.
Wow. Girlfriend. Ooh, Lord. Got goosies.
Yeah, that was a struggle.
Ooh, wow. That is a big request there at that moment. Because I'm putting myself in your mind frame at the time. You know, how you're feeling, what you're going through. And you're like, come on. Wow.
Yeah.
So you leaned in.
I leaned into it and I was like, I don't know what this looks like, but I know I don't like it. And Charlene, I will never forget. There was a moment where I went down to the basement and I saw him working out and I was like, hi. Hello. Similar to when we first met. And it was like this little flutter inside my heart. And I was like, he looks damn good right now. You know, and I'm thinking, where is this coming from? And every day there was little snippets of that. And our connection started growing and our sex life started becoming so uninhibited and the trust started growing and that deep connection. I cannot explain the deep connection of truly loving someone, their whole being with all of their brokenness, with all of their faults, and vice versa, knowing that you are loved with all of your brokenness, with all of your faults. You're seen, you're adored, and you can meet each other's needs sexually, spiritually, but the kicker is I don't need him.
Right. No, it wasn't about
I have got to fulfill that.
Yes. But it was a leap of faith, babe. It was a leap of faith. Yeah. It was like, oh my gosh, like where am I at right now? Where am I at with this man? Where am I at with this? And I can point all the fingers. Like, I love that you said because it's easy for us to, act like we don't do anything wrong. But then when we really, I call it go under the hood and you look, because men mirror us. And so when we are able to, like, what you did was very courageous, because we really went through, okay, I have this gut feeling. I'm not dealing with the narcissist. I'm not dealing with a bad human being. I'm dealing with a man that is also suffering through his brokenness, through his stuff, through his whatever. And for you to be able to have that leap of faith and have that, like, honestly, trust what you're hearing, honestly, is huge. Is huge, because a lot of times we don't lean into that. Usually we get out. We're like, I'm out. This is too much. So what happens?
Well, because we're selfish people.
Yes, I know that. So you're like, okay, I'm going to do this. I want to know, after you were able to do this, what happened between you and your husband? Like, where are things now? Like, what happened to this marriage? Tell me.
It's like unrecognizable. It's beautiful. It's amazing. It's not perfect. And that's the thing is, like, I think so many people think, oh, by the time, because we're married 28 years now, and you think, okay, so we should be good. No, we still have issues that pop up.
You're still learning. Yeah.
Yeah. But now it's kind of like, oh, no. This is not going to shake our foundation. This belongs in this category over here, and we will deal with it as fit. But it's not going to poison everything else that's amazing that's happening for us. So you grow as a couple in your maturity in how you communicate with each other, I can recognize when he's having a bad day, whereas before I would take it personal. I'm like, what is it about me? And it's like, girl, not everything is about you.
It's not about you. Yes.
Yeah. And I can recognize the guy's had a bad day. Like, this is probably not the night for me to bring up what he didn't do, or so it's a friendship, and for me to be able to kind of, I don't want to say die to myself. That sounds a little bit weird, but for me to kind of say, you know what, there's so much more in our marriage than what serves me. And by me not focusing on what serves me, I actually get served in the end.
Absolutely. That is so
Crazy
true.
How that works.
The more that you're able to just lean into him and approach him in a way of like, okay, I'm going to restart here. I'm going to literally restart. I know that I have been treating you a certain way based on all this stuff. So I'm going to slow down and I'm going to do things a little differently. When you started doing that, is that when you noticed everything was shifting? That was it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I always try to be careful.
You made it about yourself, right?
I was so mad and my guard was up and I was just bitter and I was just frustrated and I didn't want to be in the marriage. And I was like turned off. I had no attraction to him, like flat line. I didn't feel any love, none, not even for him as a person. I actually lost so much respect for him at one point in our marriage. It was flatline. It was absolutely flatline. And, to be able to take that and just be like, okay, there is something bigger here that's happening. How does it affect my kids? How does it affect, like, I know his issues. Why would I divorce him and then go find another guy where I have to figure out what his issues are?
And you got issues too. Yeah, you got your issues too. You got issues too. And I'm not trying to say, I always tell women, women, we got to be really careful because, it's really easy to say it's that person, but Mama, what about us? You know what I mean? What about the things?
And that's the key.
How are we showing up? Like, what are we doing? How are we, you know, addressing them? You know, how are we doing things too? It takes two people. Again, we're talking about, again, if you're not in, you know, abusive, all that, that's a totally other story. We're not talking about that. We're talking about good human beings that had some really bad things happen to them. And then they started, and relationships is where you really get to see yourself. Relationships is where we reflect. Relationships is where it all comes revealing. Out. It's so revealing. You like see, you're like, oh wow, I didn't know that about myself, because that's where you can like, I'm seriously, when you are literally intimate with another human being. It all comes out. And all you get to see who you are.
So the two things that I would say that if there's anything I'd want people to hear, one is you can never change someone else. You can never change your husband. And when you're trying to change them or you're doing behaviors in hopes that they'll change, it's not going to work. You have to be focused on you and how you're showing up in the marriage, regardless if he ever changes. You have a responsibility to show up as a healthy, whole woman in your marriage. And the crazy part is it's almost like a whisper. When you do that, it's so impactful for them, but that can't be the motivation.
No,
so it's just like a weird,
I know, but it does when the more that you show up, your true authentic self, you take full responsibility for how you're showing up, for how you're acting, for how you're communicating. It makes all the difference. It makes all the difference. So it seems like that's what you started doing. Now you look back. So if people are listening to this, wow, what a story, mama. So this is, but people, wow.
Crazy.
Because when women are listening to this and they're like, especially if you are in a relationship right now and you're married and you're going through, some stuff, what would you say to them? I know we have to get off, but how would you leave? But how do you want to leave the audience today, our listeners, when it comes to, what they're hearing today? And they heard, you going through all these trials and tribulations, but in the end, you see in time that you went by your gut, you had the faith, and you're so grateful that you stay with him. You're so grateful that you guys have an amazing marriage now, right? Like things are completely different. Yeah. Could you imagine if you would have left?
So different.
Yeah. You wouldn't have what you have now.
No, he's so fun. Like he's my best friend. In fact, we love to hike. And one of our jokes is we try to find a hike where nobody's on there and just have wild sex in nature. And like I'm telling you, it's like marriage 2.0. And so I guess that would be my message is
what's your message? I love this. Yes. Well, that sounds amazing. Tell us.
What you're experiencing today, what you can see is not how it has to be. And do not fall into the hopeless category. Don't listen to the people that are saying, that's it, you're not getting what you want, so get out of there. I believe in marriage 1.0 and marriage 2.0. And nobody has the privilege of being married to the same person. None of us do. We're constantly changing. So the hope is that we're changing for the good. And the hope is that we are aiding in our spouse becoming better and better as well. But it has to be two people that are whole and healthy that are coming together in the marriage. But you're going to have to fall in love with the new person they're becoming because we're constantly changing. So what you're experiencing right now is marriage 1.0. And the potential that's there is marriage 2.0, where you're learning brand new communication techniques. You have to just kind of start over and say, okay, who are we today and how can we relate with each other today? And what are those possibilities? But the kicker with this is that all it takes, even if your man is not on board, a lot of times all it takes is one person to begin to change the trajectory. And it's usually the woman. And
I know women get so mad when we say this. I'm like, okay, calm down. Think about calm down. It's okay. Because the reality is, think about this, ladies, we're the ones Seriously, like usually you'll talk to a guy, they'll be like, everything's pretty fine. We're the ones that, are the communicators, and we have all the emotions and all the things. And it's really our energy that sets the tone in the house. I mean, guys will just kind of come along, it really is. And so often I always tell women too, if things are, not really alignment and things are, you got to start first. You just got to start first. You got to start first. You got to start shifting that energy. Don't wait. Don't think that he's going to do it with you at the time. Because really, he has to feel that different energy when you allow yourself to let go of control, stop pointing your fingers, start, mothering, start doing all the things. They give him a space also to breathe, and then he can start leaning back to you. I agree with you. I agree with you on that. That's really important. Because we get too caught up sometimes with thinking, well, he should do it. If he loved me, he should do it. No, they're not thinking like that, because men and women are actually completely different. They are. We just process different. We think different. We are different. And that's the beauty of it. So we have to understand that sometimes our men actually need us to have a different energy, to show up differently, and gives them permission. Like, oh, okay, we're doing things differently now. It's good you said that. I love that you said that.
Absolutely.
I love that you said that.
Oh man.
Well, oh my goodness. Well,
we
Jennifer, thank you so much. Ladies, I love this conversation today. I hope that you got all these nuggets that I felt that I got. I hope that you realize that, there's no perfect relationship. No, seriously. No. And it does matter though. It really matters who you align yourself with. Because if she wasn't if she wasn't with her person, with the right guy, this would have just been a long time ago, mama, a long time ago. So it does matter. It does matter. But I want you to hear that, you know what? I mean, love is amazing. Love goes through, even the greatest love stories, they go through things. And that's why I appreciate Jennifer today, because she's keeping it real. She's telling us real stories here. She's not coming on and saying, oh, everything's perfect. We've been married for 20 years. No. That's not the truth. But she's so grateful that she's with her husband. She's so grateful that she stuck this in. And Jennifer, now that I know we got to wrap this up, but what do you want to leave today? What would you like to say to everyone that's listening? Because we have a lot of listeners that are single, a lot of women that, had a really hard time, finding a good man. Maybe they've already been married before, but they're in a position now. They're like, oh, are there any good men out there? Like, what do I need to do? I mean, I want them to know that, yes, there are a lot of amazing men out there, and you got to trust yourself. And what would you say to them, Mama? What would you say?
Oh, I would look them straight in the eye and make sure they know how much value they hold, and to never settle. Like, never settle. If there's those little things that you go, oh, that doesn't seem like a good thing. Listen to that voice. And if you're looking for the right man, be the right woman. And I think that's, we can't sit there and expect some knight in shining armor when we're not showing up for ourselves. Why would any man show up for us if we're not showing up for ourselves? So I'd say show up for yourself first and be your own boyfriend. Like, be your own, whether you have a faith, obviously that was my story, but find out where your value comes from. And when you project that out there, it's going to attract the right person. But when you are projecting a neediness, and when you're projecting those insecurities, and you're not showing up to the world whole and healthy, you're going to attract the people that are going to completely take advantage of you and treat you like garbage.
I love that. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Jennifer. How can everyone get a hold of you? This is so fun. This is so fun. I know we've been on forever. I love it. It's 20 minutes. How can they get a hold of you? I'll leave it in the show notes, but if they want to, get into your world, and if this is resonating, if you're a married woman and they're like, oh my God, I need to talk to her. Oh, I need to work with her. How can they get a hold of you, hon?
Right. They can find me on Facebook at Living Reframed. I'm also on Instagram, and then they can just go to livingreframed.com. Fantastic.
Fantastic. You guys follow Jennifer. What a story. Well, thank you so much, Mom.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, yes. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's a wrap. Jennifer's love story was so relatable and so inspiring. How even though they have been through so many challenges, her and her husband worked it through with the love they have for each other and the love for God. Wow. If you're loving this podcast and these incredible conversations, please hit the subscribe button and leave a 5-star review. Don't miss an episode because each week I'll be bringing on guests and experts who will share their knowledge about love, dating, and relationships so you can apply it into your own life. I'll see you next week. And until then, cheers to great love.